Welcome back. So, minority parties in the Johannesburg government of local unity are threatening to leave the coalition if their voices are not heard. It follows squabbles with the mayor, Dada Morero, and the ANC, including disagreements over positions in the mayoral committee. Former mayor and minority governing party's interim chairperson, Mr. Kabelo Gwamanda, joins us in studio for more. Mr. Gwamanda, good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us, and really good to hear from you this evening.
Good evening to you, and good evening to the viewers.
So it's interesting because it's essentially you're the interim chair of this body that is, organized minority parties within the government of local unity, and there's been frustration, you say, threatening to leave the government of local unity. Maybe give us the genesis of the organizing of yourselves and certainly the frustrations. I think more importantly, the frustrations.
Thank you very much for having me. I think more importantly is the fact that each and every political party that forms part of the government of local unity is responsible for the outcome of government's behavior or actions or lack thereof. Within our forums in which we put in place plans that are going to assist in recovering the city, each and every party that forms part of the government of local unity has significant contributions. The frustration are not only limited to the issue of the mayoral committee, it's incomplete, and it's another aspect, but we are confronted by a situation where there are multiple forums or multiple committees that are outside of the framework within the city of Johannesburg that are assisting in one form or the other, of which we don't know how to hold the outcome of their activities to account.
Such as?
Such as, firstly, there's the presidential task team. There's, they call them district development model champions, ministers, all of them. And we have now the recently introduced bomb squad. It's problematic because even with those formations in place, assisting in whichever way, we have been confronted by a situation where the city manager had to be seconded from the Department of Cocta in the province because the city was unable to appoint a city manager within a prescribed time frame. Now, all of these challenges are a direct contribution to service delivery breakdowns. So we don't know who to hold account and where to find the people that we need to hold accountable. So as political parties, we bear the responsibility for government. And as such, we have been trying to engage to try and get a sense as to what then becomes the role of councillors, what then becomes the role of administrators, unless they are telling us that the city of Johannesburg is under a soft administration. Then we need to come out and be clear so that we are not part of a process with a predetermined outcome that we as councillors are uninformed about.
Yeah, I think I want to take a step back though, because you are obviously speaking on behalf of the Johannesburg minority governing parties, right? I want to get a sense of just which parties are holding the similar view that you're putting forward for us tonight. Which parties?
So as minority parties, we hold consistent meetings. Some parties attend, some don't. And in these meetings, we have these discussions as to how then do we call a broader forum into a meeting where we can hold them to account first as this forum that governs the city of Johannesburg in the form of the government of local unity. But in the main, we as Al-Jama, there are political parties such as the UDM, ATM, African Heart Congress. I would not be able to mention them all by name in this one breath, but we've been having consistent discussions and wanting to actually come up with a position that we will communicate, that would ensure that we are able to be responsible because we are not employed. We are elected, and we need to account to our constituencies, the voters, but most importantly, the residents in the city of Johannesburg.
Yeah, I want to get into the point that you made around the fora that you feel as councillors you simply won't be able to account for the work that they do, such as, for instance, as you mentioned, the bomb squad, and you mentioned a few others. But Is it your view then that the mayor did not consult with coalition partners when he set up, for instance, the bomb squad?
There's not even a single coalition partner that can tell you what the bomb squad actually is. We haven't seen the terms of reference of what they do, how they do it, who do they report to, what is their role limited to? Is it political or is it administrative in nature? If so, what then happens to the accounting officer? Do they report or to the accounting officer, or does the accounting officer report to the bomb squad? Those dynamics have not been clearly communicated, and we can't afford to have sensitive information of the city being handed over to people whose appointment is nowhere within the legislation that guides our operations.
But when for instance, the mayor speaks of this presidential working group, this bomb squad, there is a perception that if there is issue taken within members of the government of local unity, that those questions would be asked within that very fold, right? So talk to me about the interactions that you have had with the mayor, the African National Congress, on these structures and where they belong. So what is the interaction that you've attempted to have within the fold of GLU?
Well, we have not had any formal conversation on these particular structures that currently exist in the city. I mean, the last meeting that we've had spoke about the appointment or the secondment of the acting city manager in the city of Johannesburg, of which we were just being briefed on, not necessarily being given an opportunity to decide whether or not, but because
you were told
the provincial government had invoked a clause in the constitution based on our inability as the city. Us going against that recommendation would have had far dire consequences for the city of Johannesburg. So for the interest of the residents, we allowed for that appointment to unfold. Mm-hmm. But there are still several conversations and meetings that need to be had so that we as coalition partners are on the same page. Because right now, nobody is speaking in one voice, in unison. No one.
It's interesting that you've used the word in other forums or other platforms, you've used the word respect. You said the minority parties may walk if not treated with respect. You want to hold on to that word?
I do. It's very important for each and every political party that forms part of a government to be treated with respect, because unless you have an outright majority, then you can make decisions and implement them willy-nilly. But if your role in the city depends on other political parties who need to hold equal accountability as yourself, you need to consult, and you need to consult extensively on critical matters, because not only do we account to the constituencies, but we also account politically. So if the president of my party asks me about the bomb squad, and yet I've never seen the terms of reference, then what is my role as a member of the forum that discusses the political dynamics within the context of the city of Johannesburg? It becomes a big problem.
You've raised the issue of the mayoral committee?
I have. Right now, there are 2 vacancies in the mayoral committee, and we have issued communication to the ANC, informing them of the fact that we had Councillor Margaret Arnold as the MMC of Finance. And as minorities, we had a meeting, and in that meeting resolved that we didn't see a reason why Margaret Arnold needs to be reshuffled from the mayoral committee, and therefore we are willing to present a different candidate for the speaker position.
Who's that?
It is Councillor Yongama from the UDM. And this was solely for the reason of continuity. She had just delivered the budget speech of close to 90 billion, and it needed someone with a lot of experience to assist the mayor. And it's the second time that Margaret Arnold becomes the MMC of Finance under Mayor Dada Morero. During the 21 days She was also the MMC of Finance, so we were of the view that she'd bring value.
Why not field your own candidate as Al-Jama? Why not field, for instance, a Kabelo Gwamanda? Was that ever an option?
In the minority bloc, we believe that it is we need to identify the strongest and the one that is courageous enough to be able to take up a position on behalf of the collective, because it's not a career choice. You have to understand that there's a lot of expectations from residents, and we need to have the necessary confidence that we have in whoever we appoint. And we are a unique formation of different political parties. So as someone who leads political parties, you need to be central and neutral as possible. But recently, we have, in fact, recommended Kabelo Ahmad to be the one that replaces Councillor Margaret Arnolds in the position of MMC Finance. We've written in a letter as minorities and we've sent it to the ANC. We are waiting for their response for them to advise whether or not they will be accepting that.
What do you say to residents of Johannesburg who, for instance, are seeing that Treasury has given the city of Johannesburg 14 days to get its finances in order, and we await to see what happens at the end of its 14 days. Residents in Johannesburg would say all they want to see is service delivery. They're listening to this conversation around who needs to take up the position of the finance MMC, with minority parties that are part of the government of local unity threatening to walk away from GLU. That resident who says, well, what you're threatening is even more instability in a city that already has so many challenges. What do you say to that resident?
I think firstly, I'd like to look at the context of instability. Everything that the city of Johannesburg has done has been constitutional. We have followed the law to the letter. But equally so, when it comes to service delivery, we expect everyone that we appoint to prioritize residents before anything else. That's why the government of local unity had an accelerated service delivery plan. And in that, the incumbent came up with a different approach towards service delivery, high impact service delivery. And the reason for that is because our approach to the city needs to be twofold. We understand that there's historical issues that need to be addressed, and the accelerated service delivery seeks to address just that. But also, we need to collaborate with the private sector who is investing in the city of Johannesburg, because we have new developments that are coming up consistently, which is bringing a lot of pressure to the current infrastructure. And it further exacerbates the strain that we are currently faced with. So anyone and everyone that the government of local unity appoints to any position is someone that prioritizes service delivery in respect to the portfolio in which they've been appointed to.
So the next step, quickly, and I've got about 20 seconds for this, next steps for the minority governing parties of Johannesburg.
The minority governing parties have always done what they've done in the best interest of the residents in the city. We will continue to engage with the ANC up until a point where we see that the ANC has lost their interest in what needs to happen in the city of Johannesburg. I mean, the finances of the city needs special attention. And for a portfolio of that nature to go on for a month without having appointed anyone is a serious concern for us. Hence, we took this initiative to try and compel the executive mayor into taking a decision on behalf of the residents. Whether who he decides to appoint, constitutionally it is prerogative. But as long as we have someone competent who will ensure that the funding or rather the budget of the city is used in line with the overall plan that has been presented.
Right. Mr. Kabelo Gwamanda, the former mayor of the city of Johannesburg, of course, speaking now to us as the interim chair of the minority parties, the minority governing parties of Johannesburg, who say that they might very well leave this coalition if the ANC does not treat them with respect.